Hey there, and welcome to You Talk. We connect with amazing people from across Canada and ask them about their stories, passions, and experiences. I'm your host, Ryan Funk. A nationally recognized project is working at putting art supplies into the hands of students in remote communities. We've talked with Colleen Gray from Art for Aid before, but since then a lot has happened at the project. So let's sit down with Colleen again to find out everything that's happened.
Not too bad. People are still getting used to the fact that I'm not working out of my home anymore. So I still get people coming to my door with art supplies, but I'm trying to encourage everyone to go to the shipping location in Carleton Place now. So it's getting there slowly but surely, but we did get a pretty significant amount of art supplies brought in. So everything, just about everything, we're about 3/4 of the way through the sorting. Everything has been growing really fast with Art for Aid since COVID, and which is really, I almost feel guilty about that because so many people have been, losing businesses and really in financial trouble, and we're exploding. So I think, so many people are looking for a way to help, and they're looking at Art for Aid to be able to be that vehicle to help. So it's really wonderful, but there's one of me, and so it's been pretty demanding. Moving everything out of my basement and over to the shipping location was bittersweet because, I've had it under my wing literally for the past 9 years, so now it's somewhere else, which is, I kind of, I miss being able to just come down here and do that work. Now I have to get in the car and drive. But on the other hand, it doesn't take me 2 hours to get a can of soup anymore. So that's kind of nice.
So just to kind of cover our bases again, what exactly is Art for Aid and why are we collecting these art supplies?
Well, Art for Aid is a nationally recognized project that collects and ships new and gently used art supplies to remote Indigenous schools across the country. We work with installing skills labs as well. That's sort of a new venture. We are a project under I Love First Peoples, which is a Canadian registered charity who does the same kind of work we're doing. And so a few years ago, I Love First Peoples came to us and said, look, you're not a registered charity, so you can't accept monetary donations, which was really a drag for us. But, we were getting around it. We get people to go and get gift cards or do something else. But then they said, if you want to come under our umbrella and work with us and be one of our projects, then you have a vehicle to be able to take charitable donations. And their values and mandate are completely aligned with ours. So we're doing the same work, and really we've been able to really expand our reach and our scope working with I Love First Peoples, and they're just wonderful. So it's been a really, really great collaboration so far. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. And we've been doing that for 9 years. I'm a volunteer. I don't take a salary. I guess that's about it.
Well, it's great. So why is it important to collect this art supplies? Why are we doing this?
Indigenous students on reserve have fewer advantages than non-Indigenous students in mainstream schools. So back in 2013, when I stumbled on this giant gap in the education system in remote communities, as an artist, I kind of felt like I should do more. And as an Indigenous artist, I felt like I owed it to myself to stand up and do something more. And so the more I investigated, the more I discovered that there are really significant lacks in education in remote First Nations communities. And Inuit communities, Métis communities, they're all lacking. So why is it important? It's important because it's not fair. Students in remote communities should not have to do with less. They have really high staff turnovers in remote communities. So teachers are unfortunately, constantly shifting and changing. So these kids are putting up with a lot of changes. There's a lot of poverty, but there's a lot of victories too. We tend to focus on the negative, but I try to focus on the positive aspects of what these kids are doing with their education, and it's just phenomenal. These kids are so great. and they deserve to have the same quality education that all other students are entitled to in this country. And so the collecting of art supplies serves several purposes. It allows people a vehicle to help. Everybody's got some art supplies in their house, whether they're using them or not. There's always an abundance of art supplies. We live a privileged life. And so having that and not being able to do anything with it, you don't want to throw it away, and it's still good. So Art for Aid becomes the vehicle for that. And students get to take advantage of that because there are many schools that can't afford to bring in the kind of quality art supplies that people will donate. They can't afford the volume of art supplies that people are donating. And so by being able to take those art supplies and ship them out to schools, it allows people to help. It allows students to have access to quality art supplies. It allows the school to expand on their art budget, on their program budget. And then the kids get to do art, which is phenomenal for mental health. It is healing. It breaks isolation. It invites creative and critical thinking. So, art is really, really important. With all my heart, I believe that art can heal the world. And so if it can be used in remote communities by students, rock on. That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And without the arts, life could be incredibly dull. Like we wouldn't have movies, museums, art pieces. Like these are integral, and it's just a part of the human experience. We've been creating art of what we've seen in the world for tens of thousands of years. It's
a common thread throughout humanity and throughout history. Yeah.
And not only is Art for Aid, bringing out the supplies to these communities and kids, Skill Labs launched up in September. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about what that is and, what's it going to look like moving forward?
Oh, we're so excited about the Skills Labs. Last year, several years ago, I got to go to Natwashish in northern Newfoundland and visit a school. I've been shipping art supplies for 9 years, but I've never been able to visit any of the communities that I ship to. The reason being is it's a lot of money to fly to a remote community. It's a lot of money to just go and visit. And I can ship a lot of art supplies with $1,000. So I've opted not to do that. But when I started working with I Love First Peoples and they discovered that I hadn't been to any of these communities, they were just like, well, that can't be right. So so they flew me up to Natwashish when we were doing one of the Friendship Box presentations that they do. And I got to teach in the classroom, and I got to visit with the schools and talk to the teachers. And that was really enlightening. And so in the course of talking with the teachers and the principal, I said, what can I do to help you? And I think so often when it comes to circumstances in remote communities, people assume to know what's needed or what's wanted. And I don't like to do that. I would rather ask, what do you need? And so in the course of that ask, the principal and the teacher said, we'd love to have a sewing program. Well, that was all I needed, because I'm a person who can get things, and I'm a bridge builder. So when I came back here, I put the word out to my network and said, this is what I need for a sewing skills lab. And, within a few short weeks, I had a basement full of sewing supplies and sewing machines, and then the cost of shipping, of course, is astronomical. So we had Rotary clubs who came in to help us look after the shipping aspect. And it was absolutely astounding how it all came together so fast. CBC did a wonderful little blurb on the sewing program in Natwashi. So that was really nice to get that. And then the following year, we thought, this was just so successful. Like, we have to keep building on this. And so, Jose, I started looking for sewing machines to see what would be appropriate. We wanted to work with elementary students. We wanted to see what's out there. So research is a huge, huge and onerous part of what I do. And I have become a very good researcher. In the course of trying to find sewing machines, I came across Janome Canada, which is a wonderful organization. I found one of their sewing machines, and I copied it and I sent it to Jose and said, what do you think about this for the students? We were going to fundraise the money for the machines, and people were really excited about being able to purchase these machines for the schools. So Janome, when they looked at the sewing machine that we had selected, had informed us that as cute as it would not stand up to the rigors of an elementary school education, and it would probably break in a year. So we were a little bit disappointed, but Janome really liked our project and they really liked our vision. And so they stepped in and they donated 60 brand new sewing machines to the project. Each one of these machines retails at $950. Like staggering.
That's a chunk of change. That's a chunk of change.
So we were just gobsmacked. I mean, how do you reply to that kind of generosity other than, we're building a shrine to you tomorrow? We were pretty excited. And so then the next leg became, how do you find the schools? Because you have to have the infrastructure to be able to house a program that size. A lot of schools are run out of portables. Some of them are very, very small. There's not a lot of room. So if you're going to put 10 or 15 machines in a school and the program supplies, there has to be a place to store it. There has to be, so there's a lot of logistics there. So after researching, Jose has traveled across Canada and I think has visited something like 90 of these communities. So she really has a handle on where to go. So anyway, she discovered a couple of schools that were interested in the program and had the infrastructure in place. And so we started making arrangements to put everything in place, and it was seamless. Everything came together and gelled in a way that was just mind-blowing. The Baffinland Iron Mines is a resource company up there who, with some of these communities that we were going into, they're in those communities. And a big part of their mandate is to better the community, to bring something to the community. So they partnered with us and helped us with shipping, and are continuing to help us with shipping. The Rotary Club chipped in and helped us. It's just so overwhelming. Like as soon as we come up with an idea or a plan, all of the people just come together and help us. We had people buying sewing machines to help with shipping and to pay for the purchase of a machine for schools. So we now have 4 schools up and running. We are in, sorry, I'm really talking a lot here, Ryan. Interviewer's dream, right? So we are in Pond Inlet, Igloolik, Natwashish, and Nain, Labrador. So those are the 4 schools we're working on right now. We have a 5th school online, but I think we're still waiting for confirmation. The machines themselves are absolutely beautiful. They've been retrofitted with the child safety guards as well, so that little fingers don't get injured. And beyond that, the benefit to the community is astronomical because these machines are strong enough to be able to sew through hide and through canvas. So if you are a subsistence hunter or you live off the land, a canvas tent is a very important part of your toolkit. To repair these things is a pain. And so with a sewing machine, it's like zip and it's done, right? You've got the ability to really get people back out on the land quickly. So yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting to watch this develop. I'm just formulating a contact sheet now to send out to the schools, asking them if they can send us some pictures, some information, give us an actual update so that I can build my report for Janome and for the people who have helped us to get this to where it is today.
Yeah, I think the cool part of that is just once you had the idea for this, a concept for this initiative, people, they all came together in a collaborative effort. And I think just for the average person, they want to help. They want to be able to find ways to help those less fortunate than themselves and, make it better for everyone, the world a better place. But for many, they don't know how to do it. Well, what are you supposed to do? Like, it's great to hear about Art for Aid, being that, kind of that stepping stone for people
Nice.
to find a way to help out.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited too. I'm excited.
Mhm.
People have really embraced this project in a big way.
hmm And I mean, an exciting thing, it's getting recognized. You were one of 14 recipients to receive the Governor General Award back in September. Super busy time. You have your skills lab and
Yeah.
sewing project going, and you won this award. Well, what
Yeah.
was your reaction when, they told you were going to be one of the recipients?
Well, I found out back in 2019 that I was a recipient. Um, I was really blown away. I mean, how, who does that ever happen to, right? So I got a phone call here one June afternoon from the office of the Governor General, and I actually thought it was a friend of mine. So I totally made an idiot of myself. I thought it was a joke, and I responded as though it was a joke. And then to
But
my
when big news comes like that, like what are you supposed to do? Like, this
yeah,
can't be real. Well, you're
General,
pulling my leg.
yeah. I said, "This is Kathy. Smarten up, Kathy. What do you want, you idiot?" Yeah, right. And so when the lady, very kind lady, very patient lady on the phone, reassured me that this was in fact the Office of the Governor General, and that I had been nominated and would be receiving the Sovereign Medal for Volunteers. Um, I didn't even know what to, she kept talking, and all I could hear was buzzing in my head. There was just nothing was registering. And so she said, "Are you still with me?" At one point, because I wasn't saying anything. And I said, "I am really sorry, but I need you to start over and talk to me again, because nothing that you've said has sunk in. I'm really trying to process this, but I just can't. It's coming in very
Yeah, that dazed moment.
right." So she was wonderfully patient with me. And so she told me everything that was going to happen. And then, of course, COVID hit, and everything got locked down. And so just this past year, they started doing ceremonies. As a matter of fact, the one that I went to was the very first one since COVID lockdown.
Ooh,
Yeah,
very exciting.
I know, right? And then to Mary May Simon. I mean, come on, an Indigenous Governor General is the person standing to give me the award. Like, I mean, that was just everything to me. And so I brought my husband and my daughter with me. We were limited to how many people we could bring, and they had a wonderful event. It was at Rideau Hall. Never been there before. Pretty impressive. It was really nice. Really, really nice. I felt very honored.
Oh, it's a great honor, as well as just bringing more awareness to the cause. Like when
Sure.
it's a success for Art for Aid as well.
Yes, very, very much so. It was, I mean, it's all about Art for Aid for me.
Cool thing that Art for Aid is doing, the Bear Heart contact cards,
Yeah,
going over to the social media and the website. Incredibly cute stuff right there for that.
isn't that great?
What can you tell me about it?
We often have people who want to reach out, like youth that want to reach out to the communities and let them know that they're not forgotten, that we're learning, and in school there are very strong Indigenous programming is now happening on a regular basis in schools. And so more and more youth are learning about some of the challenges that are being faced, and about the many victories that Indigenous students are also moving forward with. So in the course of that education, a lot of these students are looking for ways to reach out. So they do art supply fundraisers in the school, and so on and so forth. But I also wanted the kids to be able to personally connect. And so again, I go back to my bridge building skills, and I thought, how can I connect these two? How can I make a connection? It doesn't have to be reciprocal, because I mean, you can travel only one way on a bridge, or you can travel both. So in the course of trying to figure something out, I came across a way, because art is an incredible medium that does not require language or understanding of language. And so I started inviting non-Indigenous youth in schools to create these cards. I have a template that people can download to create these cards. Draw a positive picture, draw something, or say something if you're not an artist. You don't have to draw, but just some way to create the building of a bridge between a remote community and youth outside of that community. And so the Bear Heart contact cards is bear because that is our logo, and heart because these messages come from the heart, and contact cards because that's what's happening. It's making contact. And so we invite students to create these cards. We put them in our shipments of art supplies to the schools, and the children in these communities can see that other students outside of the community, their peers, are connecting with them from across the miles.
And I think that's great, because the more we're connecting with others at a younger age, the better unity will become. Like, the worst thing you can do is have that segregation.
Yes.
Like, this person over here, this person over there. Like, unless you're meshing and getting to know them, you can't have those perfect dialogues.
Yeah, it's really great. And it gives young people, they feel like they're contributing. They feel like they're doing something, to help or to support, or to, at the very least, to let a student know that they're thought of. To be thought of is a wonderful thing. It's the opposite of that is to be forgotten, to be apathetically ignored. And so, for students, young people, their same age, to reach out across the miles, I think it's wonderful. I mean, I don't often get feedback from these communities, but I don't have to. I know that they're appreciated. I know the art supplies are appreciated. I know the contact cards are appreciated. So yeah, it's building a bridge.
Speaking of building bridges and increasing awareness, in September, we had National Truth and Reconciliation Day. Personally, I feel like maybe it wasn't executed to the best of what it could potentially become. But what are your thoughts on this day and this kind of recognition of what's going on in Indigenous communities?
Well, it's a great start. It's a really great start, and everything that is healing has to start somewhere, and so awareness is a big part of that. It goes way beyond just wearing an orange shirt on September 30th. And that's what I try to punctuate with people. It's about so much more than an orange shirt. I think the fact that the orange shirt, to me, for young people, is a doorway. It's an open doorway to learn more. And so all of a sudden, mommy and daddy are buying orange shirts and everybody's wearing an orange shirt. And why? How come we're wearing this orange shirt? What's Phyllis's story? So the schools have no choice but to step forward with Phyllis's story, because these kids are going, what are we wearing an orange shirt for? So there is now connection to a traumatic past in our country from young people. And that's important, because if they grow up with that knowledge, they can grow up knowing how to make change. They can grow up knowing that this was wrong, but we can't do this again. We have to move forward in a positive way. Education, knowledge is all power. It's all key to change. I think there has to be truth before there can be reconciliation. I really believe that. I don't think there's enough truth. I think it's been, wonderfully skimmed over by orange shirts. I hope to see more of that coming forward. I hope as they more and more deep scans are done of the earth, and more children are brought home. This is the beginning of a long, long line of pain that's going to be ripped open. And like any festering wound, it has to be opened up for the festering to be let out. And so this is, people are going to have to just be gentle, be gentle with Indigenous people, and be understanding and learn, be good allies if they're not Indigenous, and be good allies if they are Indigenous. There's a lot of lateral violence in the Indigenous communities as well. So I think as human beings, we have to be kind and understanding and learn about each other's past and about each other's history if we're ever going to move forward in healing. I think it's a great start. I love that so many young people were engaged in this. That to me is everything. That's the big step forward for me, was that young people are learning about truth and reconciliation and what it actually means, not just what the title is.
Yeah, I know, driving around the city that day, and the week leading up to it, seeing the orange handprints. I know there was the atrocity that took place earlier in the summer. When we found the children's bodies, and people have been recognized, and kind of keeping that in the view for conversations. But yet, seeing the kids get engaged, start having conversations, it's been great to see, because I know when I was growing up in school, we never had these conversations. It was just something that was just like, they're Indigenous peoples, they're out on their reserves.
Yeah. They're out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. So it's great to see those conversations, and I would like to see this kind of day grow and develop. I think it was the new Governor General who like in a press conference was saying like, when Justin Trudeau missed out on the first day, it's like, well, a prime minister would never miss a Remembrance Day event. And these is mostly for people who've already passed on.
Yeah.
Like sort of the hypocrisy.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity, boy. He really didn't do that one very well.
You're like, buddy, it's all you have to do is just show up.
Yeah.
Like that's the minimum.
Yeah. Tofino.
Yeah. And it's just a thing that needs to develop, like a federal holiday, federal workers getting the day off. Like for the normal workers, that's fine. Having a day off is great. Go find out. But, for our policymakers, come on, let's get to work. Maybe make it a day where it's like we're specifically focusing on Indigenous issues this day. I mean, that's like a small thing you could do. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I think
I would rather than see a day off, I would rather see a day of education. Where workplaces bring in Indigenous elders, they bring in people who can do Indigenous crafts and bring in traditional knowledge. I think if we show people who we are, we become less of those poor Indigenous people and more of, wow, what a cool group of people, and what a terrible thing happened in their history. I think if we bring that to the table, in corporations, can you imagine everybody sitting down to do beading or moccasin classes, or listening to an elder talk about some of the traditional stories? Something like that, I think, holds more value than a day off to go shopping or to go to the park. I mean, I don't, my September 30th, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what can I do today that will make an impact for youth tomorrow. And I'm sure I could go pack art supplies. I could have done that, but I do that all the time. But I wanted to do something more meaningful. And so I put on my rubber boots and I grabbed my gloves and some garbage bags, and I traveled the ditches picking garbage for the day. So I thought, what better way than to make the earth a better place for the kids, right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Not just having that day off, but being actively involved in learning and activities. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go for days and kind of awareness like that. And in terms of like, bringing in elders and Indigenous knowledge keepers, you're right. There's this fount of knowledge that is not being utilized in our Canadian and just North American society. When colonizers came, they threw out the Indigenous perspective and like, nope, the West is the correct way to do things. And I've had this conversation with my friend a couple of times. He's a scientist. And I was like, well, I mean, Western science has, done a lot for the world. But, what if we kind of utilize that with Indigenous knowledge keepers and, the knowledge that they've they've been preserving the environment for tens of thousands of years before, like, what is it, the 1960s, when scientists were like, yeah, maybe we should be a little bit nicer with how we're consuming everything. So maybe that more collaborative approach, getting the elders in. I don't know if this would work at all, but my thought is, getting elders into our schools to teach everyone about that perspective. You have the normal education system, and this is built into it. And then maybe involvement in the land. You're going out to learn, preserve, protect, and we can develop this sense of ownership for the environment. I don't know if that would work or not, but just in my head, I think that would be fun.
Well, you know what? I think you're right. I mean, whether it's Indigenous youth or non-Indigenous youth, if you connect a child to the land and you teach them how to love the land, they're going to care for this planet in a better way. We can't leave here. It's not like we can take off and go,
Yeah, no matter how much Elon Musk keeps telling us.
We just can't. It's just, this is the way it is. And, we're destroying the planet. We're killing the water. If we don't stop pulling bricks out of the wall, there's not going to be a wall left. There's so many things going on. The space junk alone is out of control. Not only are we destroying this planet, we're destroying the space around our planet. Like, oh my God, where does it stop? And now we're going to start sending out, more junk to other planets. So I don't know. It begins right in the front yard. When I do speaking engagements with kids, one of the things that I tell them is that every time you stop, you walk by a piece of garbage and you look at it. And if you walk by it, no harm, no foul. It's not going to cost you anything to stop and pick it up. It's not going to cost you anything to walk by it. But I can promise when you stop and pick that piece of garbage up, the earth you're standing on knows what you've done. Everything has energy. Everything. Energy cannot die. It's impossible. It is scientifically proven. Energy cannot die. So if you put a piece of good energy into something that you're doing for the planet will know it and feel it. So I try to impart this on young people. And I mean, I think some get it and I think a lot don't, but I think they'll remember. If they feel something, they'll remember. People will always remember how you made them feel. So, I think if we focus more on the education of caring for the planet, put gardens in schools. Part of the education process is teaching young people how to turn soil, how to compost. This is not rocket science, but this is the stuff that grows new life on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Community farms, community food,
yes.
Allowing us to be a little less disconnected, or I guess a little more disconnected from the supply chain, giving us more ownership and control of ourselves. So we're not reliant on grocery stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations. Sure. There's a lot of things. And just empowering individuals, giving people the resources and rights that they need to succeed. Yeah. And then, it's a start. I think I'm starting to see, I know it's very easy to get that doomer mindset, like, doesn't matter, everything is over, let's just whatever.
Yeah. We're existing now.
There are seeds out there. And I think if we continue to have these conversations, continue to empower and educate our youth that, hey, even if things get rough over the next kind of 50 or so years, maybe in the decades afterwards, we'll start to see improvements.
Yeah. We can't wait until it's too late. It's already too late. We got to start now if we're going to try and change things. There are all these arguments around climate change, global warming, and you get a million people for and a million people against, and a million people who are saying, well, no, it's not that, it's this. Everybody has an opinion, but while you're voicing your opinion, what are you doing to help? You can talk all you want, but if you're not doing anything other than talking about your opinion, then you're part of the problem. You have to do the ugly, crappy stuff, like, going out and picking up the garbage, to write a letter to your government and say, look, this waterway is polluted. You have to be involved in the grassroots organizations that are fighting for the environment. Whether you believe in the science or not, pollution is real. We have to deal with that. Global warming is happening. Whatever is causing it, that's not everybody's fight,
And even if it wasn't true, isn't it better to have a more healthy relationship to the planet than just consume?
Yes, err on the side of caution. You can't lose.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's a little funny quotation marks. I mean, if everything just falls apart, well, those who've relied on Western society aren't going to be able to succeed in that new environment. And it's going to be those with survival skills and understanding of the land, such as our Indigenous people, that'll be able to survive through there.
Yeah. The people who are already living off the land.
I guess ironic would be the correct word in that situation.
Yeah, very ironic.
Just got to kind of move forward. We kind of got a little off topic.
Went off on a tangent. Solving all the Earth's problems.
What's next for Art for Aid? What's going on? I know there's a lot of artwork that is available to help fundraise some of these efforts. What's going on? What's next? What's kind of the plan?
We're developing more skills labs. I'm looking right now at developing a 3D printer skills lab.
Ooh, 3D printing.
Yeah. So when you think about, the positive attributes around 3D printing, if you're a hunter and your gun stock breaks and you're in a remote community, you may be waiting weeks, maybe months before you can get a gun stock. Well, if you can 3D print a gun stock and slap it on your rifle, you're out hunting again, right? So there's food security in being able to make sure that the tools of subsistence hunting are able to be repaired. For young people to be able to, oh my gosh, there's so much involved in this, and I don't want to go too far into it because we're still in the really infant step planning stages, but we're looking at trying to develop 3D printing resources in the North. We're looking at, I'm always brainstorming, different ways that we can positively impact. I work on synthetic paper with ground mineral watercolor. That's my art form. I really, really want to start getting this into remote schools. I want high school students to really be able to hang on to this. It's kind of an advanced technique for young people. It's a very expensive process to, the paints themselves are, anywhere from $20 to $40 a tube. So it becomes very expensive, and little kids love to use volumes of stuff. So
as we've seen in any kind of nursery school during finger painting day.
For sure. So, I keep, filtering the art supplies to a lot of elementary students, but I also recognize the incredible value that Indigenous older students, high school students have as far as developing their art. I don't think they get enough supplies. They don't get a variety of things to engage them. And this particular medium of creativity is so unique. And it's not the kind of thing, it doesn't lend itself to everybody. I find people who are classically trained artists really struggle with this technique because this doesn't fit into the parameters that they've been constructed with. And so I tell people when I teach them, like, every rule about working with watercolor, you can just leave at the door because none of it applies here. And it really freaks a lot of people out. But young people don't have that barrier. Young people seem to be able to set aside any rules very quickly and move forward into doing something really unique. So my next big project is to work with high school students and make packages and send these synthetic paper packages with the art palettes up there and get them experimenting with this and playing with it. It lends itself wonderful to ink work. So I'd like to, maybe do some ink work as well. Maybe, start visiting some of these communities once everything is safer and teach this technique to high school students and then start, bringing their art forward and showing the world what they're capable of. I want to elevate them from an artistic perspective. I want the world to see how brilliant these young people are. They're amazing, really amazing.
Yeah, no, and that sounds incredibly promising, and I'm excited to see where it all goes. It'd be great to see in a news article, Indigenous high schoolers, new revolutionary technique, or throwing the rules of watercolor out the window.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's the plan.
Well, it was great talking to you and hearing about all the amazing things that Art for Aid is doing, and I'm excited to see what's next and what's coming down the pipeline. Where can people go to find out more information about this project?
Well, we keep the website up to date pretty well. So that's www.artforaid.ca. You can check our blog. We usually keep any projects that are running, anything new. We try to update the blog. We have our Shopify store that is our fundraising store, and that's the artforaidshop.ca. So if people are looking for really cool Christmas gifts, that is the place to go. And 100% of the proceeds from the store all go towards Art for Aid. I don't take a salary off of this. I'm a volunteer. Let me see. You can sign up for the newsletter on any of these websites. The newsletter will keep everybody up to date on what we're doing. And whenever we have our supply collection dates, we also send that out through the newsletter and our social media as well, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on like pick one.
Everywhere.
We're everywhere. And watch for our 5-colored bear. Our bear is now an internationally known symbol. I was sent an email from someone in Singapore who said that they saw one of my cards on a shelf in a store in Singapore. Go figure. So we're everywhere. So just come and find us. Send me an email if there's any questions. I'd be happy to speak with anybody who's wondering what's next.
If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.